And welcome back to another week of Atheists on Air Beyond the Trailer Park. And with me, as always, is my faithful co-host, Beth. How's it going over there?
Howdy, howdy, it's going. Where, I don't know.
Yeah. Hell in a handbasket or something, right?
Sometimes I think that, yes.
What's that? Where am I coming from again? Why do I hear
Poltergeist!
Poltergeist! Oh no! Hang on, something's funky. Yes. I see what's going on. Okay, sorry about that. Yay, live TV. So, this we will be having our special guest star, Miss Ashley, joining any minute now. But of course, being that she has her own show, she kind of has to finish that before she can come over here and grace us with her presence. But
play
momentarily. Yeah.
She can't come and play yet?
Not yet, but she'll be here soon. Because we need to have all of us to talk about tonight's topic, which is, of course, ghost hunting. But before we get to that, there's a few things that Beth and I were going to talk about, and I'm sure Ashley will once she gets here, too. Starting with Duck Dipshit, as we like to say. Our friend Phil fucking Robertson. Beth, would you like to start?
This guy, he's scary. He really is. I mean, when the first fiasco started, I tried and tried and tried. I bit my tongue and bit my tongue. I wasn't gonna comment on it. I ended up commenting. But after a while, as soon as I did some digging and I found out that these people are just fake beyond belief. And I used to watch the show when I had TV, and I used to actually like the show. I thought it was cute.
Yeah.
But I don't have I haven't had TV for 5 years, so I haven't, it's like, I mean, yeah, the whole First Amendment thing, yes, he has a right to say what he says, but he also has the right for backlash.
Yeah.
But this, quote, hypothetical situation, first of all, it takes a really sick and twisted mind to even think of something like this. And yeah. I'm going to read what his hypothetical situation is. I'll make a bet with you. 2 guys break into an atheist's home. He has a little atheist wife and 2 little atheist daughters. Notice that they're women.
Yep.
Okay. 2 guys break into his home and tie him up in a chair and gag him. And then they take his 2 daughters in front of him and rape both of them and then shoot them and take his wife and then decapitate her head off in front of him.
Mm-hmm.
And then they look at him and say, "Isn't it great that I don't have to worry about being judged? Isn't it great that there's nothing wrong with this? There's no right or wrong. Now is there, dude?"
Mm-hmm.
Then you take a sharp knife and take his manhood and hold it in front of him and say, "Wouldn't it be something if this," and they have the little sick thingy, "was something wrong with this? But you're the ones who say there is no God, there's no right, there's no wrong. So we're just having fun. We're sick in the head. Have a nice day." If it happens to them, they probably would say, "Something about this just isn't right."
Yeah, that's some sick, twisted shit.
I mean...
And this whole fucking idea that if you don't believe in God, then anything goes. Like, where I don't understand where people get that bullshit
Well,
from.
it comes from the old saying, "You believe in nothing."
Which is not true either.
Well, yeah, I mean that is like probably one of the biggest fallacies that irks me. It's like I, I, I don't know yet whether I'm going to write a rant on this or not. I was going to when it popped up last night. I was going to do a rant on it, and I just ran out of time. But I don't understand people like this.
No. And the thing is, okay, so what does he think that is going to accomplish? Like, really, by saying that?
Ratings?
Okay, ratings, yes, I could see that. But I mean, if he was saying that to bring some kind of a message to atheists, what is that accomplishing? Oh, so we better believe in God so other people don't massacre us in our homes? Like, what the fuck does that have to do with anything?
Well, what's really bizarre about this, and let me see if I can find it real quick, is not even probably an hour after I first read this, I had these two little lovelies pop up.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm probably about a day and a half behind in my news feed. Georgia, I'm just going to read the headline here. Georgia Patriot reportedly planted pipe bombs in park to sow fear of Muslims. Okay. Self-professed Christian. Surprise! Another Christian terrorist. Although this gentleman, this is another different incident. This is the one that went into the New Orleans airport with explosives and a machete.
Oh, lovely.
Of course, now from the report I read, neither one of these were heavily reported because they were, well, the second one was a Jehovah's Witness. Hopefully, I didn't get them switched, but to some, they call them Christian, but that's a moot point. But had these people been Muslim, or had they been atheist, or any other, it's crazy.
It is.
You know? And then you got the old fart, Pat Robertson. He's like, why do liberals love Sharia law so much? Excuse me, I think you have that backwards.
Backwards, just a tad.
I mean, it just, they have no sense of reality of what's really going on.
None whatsoever. It's pretty sad. And the thing is, like, you gotta think, you know, with Phil Robertson there, he's one of those people where you think, you know what, you just keep on believing in God, because if that's the way your brain works, we don't want you thinking that you can get away with things.
Yeah.
It's unbelievable. And that, but I still think, you know, other than, like you say, ratings, but what could he possibly hope to accomplish by that? Like, I don't get what he thinks the payoff would be otherwise.
Well, context, this was he was a keynote speaker. I can't even talk tonight, sorry. He was a keynote speaker at the Vero Beach prayer breakfast in Florida. Okay, these people paid $100 a plate to hear him. And to me, it's just like they need propping up. They need their, I guess, I don't know if confirmation bias.
I guess.
Is the right. I mean, and it comes down to, if your God is that weak that you need dipshits like this thing. I don't even want to call him a person. I'm sorry, but anybody that comes up with that twisted scenario really makes me wonder.
And the thing is, like, I've heard the audio recording. He's almost relishing this idea. Like, it's almost like he wants that to happen to some poor atheist family, just to vindicate, to feel like, yeah, see, I told you so, you fuckers. Like that's the sentiment that came out of that. It was horrible. And he's gonna stand up and say, "Ooh, I'm superior because I have fucking Jesus." Like, are you kidding me?
Well, what makes this even more sick and twisted in my mind?
Mm-hmm.
One of the sponsors of this prayer breakfast was Liberty University,
Oh, of
which,
course.
okay, where did Ted Cruz 2016 presidential candidate just speak at?
Yep. Mm.
To me, that is tacit endorsement.
Yeah, definitely. That's fucked
So
up.
do you really want a fuckstain like Ted Cruz, who, as far as I know, has not said boo about this speech?
Well, what I'm hoping is that this time, maybe TLC will get its head out of its ass and fire this fucker. I
I thought he
mean,
was, wasn't it A&E?
Annie, sorry, yeah,
Okay, I was thinking,
I
yeah.
can't. They're all so full of bullshit and woo now. I can't even keep them
Uh,
straight. But yeah, Annie, I hope they get their heads of their ass and fire this fucker finally. Because what could you
yeah,
possibly?
and not back down this time.
Yeah, like what could you possibly say
Well,
to defend that?
and what's really sad, this is coming from TC Palm, one of the news. I don't know if it's an actual newspaper. I'm doing this on the fly here.
Yep.
He was well received.
Mm, lovely.
Phil Robinson, true to form, was well received at Vero Beach Prayer Breakfast. I don't know if this was before or after his little
Diatribe.
thing.
No.
I just think it's sick and twisted.
Well, it is. Like, who thinks about that? Like,
Yeah,
okay, we're supposed to be the ones with no morals. I have never in my life thought about something like that happening to some poor Christian family. Like,
yeah.
never. Now, and when I'm like when they're saying, "Oh, these horrible things are going to happen to you," or when some dumbass is trying to say, "Oh, well, if you were raped, then it's somehow your fault," or some that shit. What I say is, I hope that nothing like that ever does happen to you or your family.
Well, considering I was raped,
Yeah.
okay, and the fact that I had to have my fucking face rebuilt when I was 13 years old, I would
Hmm.
never wish that on my worst enemy.
Exactly. Like, and to think that he's using that to show some sort of moral
Yeah,
superiority
exactly.
is insanity.
Yeah,
Insanity.
I think that's and just done. I think that's what really pisses me off is the fact that you know those of us that have been physically assaulted
Mm-hmm.
to say that you need a fucking god to tell you that that's wrong.
Wrong? Yeah. Like, really, if that's how Phil Robertson's brain works, perhaps he should consider checking himself into a facility somewhere relatively soon, because that's fucking sick. Ay.
Yeah.
Oh, and talking about Cruz at Liberty, Unrenowned Tech. Hello, Unrenowned Tech. He wanted to point out that attendance was mandatory for students to go watch Cruz.
Yes. Yeah. Yes. I'm. It's yeah. Went to a college like that. I won't tell you how many chapel services I missed.
Lucky you. Oh, boy.
Yeah.
Ugh,
But yeah, that is just really, really disturbing.
it is. It is. I hope they have like private eyes or somebody fucking watching that guy, because I wouldn't want to know that he's running around loose anywhere near where I live. Because for all we know,
I
for all
uh-huh.
we know, that's
Well,
like
what
fantasy that he wants to do that.
I wouldn't. I might eat my words, but that would not surprise me one bit. And what's really sad is one of his nephews.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know if he was elected, but I know he ran for office. I really wonder what he thinks right now and if he's going to denounce this. Or is he going to clap along with all the other Looney Tunes?
Yeah, no kidding. Oh, and look, it's special guest star Miss Ashley.
Hey, y'all.
Hello. I was just saying it, it's hard work when you got to finish your show before you jump onto somebody else's. We were just talking about duck dipshit.
Oh, yes. Oh, yeah. The duck boy.
Yes. Yes, indeed.
He, yeah. And the thing about it is that yes, I'm gonna say it. A year ago, I actually sat down and was like watching that show and enjoyed watching it. And now I cannot stand it.
Beth said she used to like it.
I watched it faithfully, and even up until 3 years ago, I was at a friend's house, couldn't sleep, and I had Duck Dynasty marathon basically all night.
Yeah.
Till 5, 6 in the morning. I mean, I was the same way with 19 Kids and Counting.
Mm-hmm.
And
I used to up until the last. I haven't watched it this season. I watched it last season. I have not watched it this season because of all the bullshit.
Yeah. The last time I watched it was when they had their miscarriage and that.
I think that was the last time I watched it because of what she said about the miscarriage. I don't remember exactly, but
yeah,
because that could have killed her, and she was like, "Oh well, if that's God's will, then so be it."
Yeah, that's really great. Make 19 fucking kids and then croak and leave them all.
Yeah.
Right. That's God's will.
And the youngest one, has special needs, and but hey, God knows what's happening, man. Like, fucking. As I keep saying, the vagina is not a clown car.
I love that saying.
I know.
I just do. I'm sorry. I know it's...
No, it's true. It's not a fucking clown car. Like, if we were...
Well, and the funny thing is, when you first started saying that, I had never heard it anywhere else. And, I mean, I pick at stuff at the Duggars because they're in the news. It's easier to use them as an example of the Quiverful movement because some people have absolutely no clue. Although there are more and more coming out, like Steven Anderson, he's Quiverful. Daniel Smith, the one for the MMS out in Oregon, he's probably Quiverful because he's got like 7 kids. Or is it? I can't remember Indiana or Oregon. I got 2 cases mixed up, but yeah. So it's becoming more and more I'll say mainstream. People, when you say it, know what you mean now. Where 3-4 years ago they had no clue.
Yeah.
But yeah.
It's kind of like the whole what is it, Sister Wives?
Oh yeah.
Oh God.
I get a kick out of that shit, though.
yeah, I watch it. I will say it.
Mormons fascinate me.
Yes.
Yeah.
And, I do like the wives. They're pretty cool. I like how they, they're cool. I like them.
And see, I have zero problem with polygamy where it's consenting adults, right? If that's their shit. And I can see some benefits when you feel like you need to have multiple children. If you've got 4 mother figures that can step in and do what needs, I can see that benefit. And I don't have a problem with that. Now the religious shit, but they seem more progressive than the average, like, considering they're so fundamental, they believe polygamy as part of their doctrine, for them to be like, well, if our children don't want to follow what we did, that's okay, that's their life. Like, that's pretty progressive, so I can respect that.
I know on last season they actually had 2 grad students come into their house.
Yep.
With them for a couple of weeks, and the guy was an atheist.
Oh, okay.
And I mean, he actually, they had to go back and report to their professor, and they both actually said wonderful things about the family. Said
Yeah.
they're thoroughly expecting one thing and came out totally with a totally different view.
Yeah. Yeah, no, I think from what we can tell, because let's be honest, there's no such thing as actual reality TV. Everything is edited and cut to make us see what they want us to see, but,
No, You mean that's real?
No. In fact, remind me about that, because I have a story regarding that when we get into our talking about ghost hunting.
Ooh.
But
I can fill you in on that one.
well, so the other thing, we are going to talk about the CNN special. Did you guys both get to see that?
Yes, we did.
I haven't watched it yet, but I do have it downloaded.
Okay, so Miss Ashley, what was your take?
See, I'm gonna have to go back and rewatch it, because as I'm watching it, I was also having a Facebook conversation.
Weren't you supposed to be writing a paper at the time?
And I was also writing a paper. So I heard something, and there were just some things that just kind of made me stop in the middle of everything I was doing and listen. And then so I got bits and pieces. So Bobby and I have it in the queue to queue up and watch the whole thing without any interruptions. But one of the things that kind of made me turn my head and was when the statement was made that anybody who calls themselves a humanist or a skeptic or all the other names other than atheists, they're liars.
Yeah, that's Silverman's very direct, isn't he?
I mean, I understand where he's coming from, but there are some people out there that, like, my family knows I'm a humanist. Hey, that's, okay, great, wonderful. But if I were to go to them and say I'm an atheist, that's a whole different other, and if I were to say I'm a humanist out at a school where my children's at, there won't be any backlash. But if I say atheist, there'll be backlash towards my kids or jobs. So, I mean, I understand why people do it.
Yep.
And
well, I mean, and where you live, you got fucking teachers telling kids to disobey their parents because their parents are bad for being atheists.
Mm-hmm.
Like, that's
exactly. And so, I mean, I do understand why people do it, and I don't think that they should be considered liars, because liars is a pretty harsh word.
Yeah, that is pretty harsh. And the thing is, there's so many flavors of disbelief.
Right.
Like, you don't, all it is we don't believe in a God, and how people quantify that, or how they explain their version of that, everybody's different, and to say that, well, you can't just say you're a humanist, but you have to be an atheist too, or you're lying just to say you're one, is kind of much.
Well, I look at it this way, like, hopefully Cash won't mind me using him as an example, but Cash can't be out.
Right.
Yeah. Exactly.
He can't.
Yep. That's entirely...
My old job, I was, but I faced a lot of backlash because I was.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
Had my boss not known me as well as he did, I could have very easily have lost my job.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. So,
So, I mean, to say that people are lying, no, they're protecting themselves.
Yes.
Do I wish we didn't have to do that? Oh, hell yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm in a position now where I've gotten to the point where I fucking don't care if you choose to smash and bash me, whether verbally and or physically, just because I'm an atheist. Be my guest.
Yeah.
But some people can't do that. I'm in a position now where it's not going to affect my livelihood.
That's
my
right.
bosses know.
Yeah.
I don't have to worry about losing my job or my livelihood.
And there's so many people out there that have to be very, very careful about it. I mean, look at there are people in our secret group that, you know, if somebody comes in that group that they don't know, they're immediately looking at leaving the group because they don't know that they can trust them, and that's why we're so careful about that group.
Yeah.
And because they can't, and so many people use pseudonyms because they just can't. I mean, even me, like, nobody gives a shit really that I'm an atheist here, but I still use a secondary Facebook account because I don't want to piss off all the religious relatives on my husband's side.
Yeah,
Right.
I mean, it's bad enough when you have to fight your own family,
Yeah.
okay, but most likely your own family is not going to threaten to kill you, although
Yeah.
I'm beginning to wonder about that anymore. But in the, quote, outside world of your enclave of your family and friends, that is and can be a real threat.
Mhm.
I mean, just look at the headlines of the last 2 days, like what I cited. Oh, I wanted to prove that Muslims really are a problem.
Mhm.
Okay, so I'm gonna leave a freaking pipe bomb in a public park.
Yeah.
You know, and I do have to, and I will say this: I do have a lot of respect for the people that are in this community that don't have the pseudonyms that are out, and
Yep.
and and they do say, "Hey, I am an atheist." I do have a lot of respect for them because those are the ones right now who are able to, and they are actually paving the way for us that can't come out.
Yeah.
You know, they're paving the way. They're paving the way for us to be able to one day be able to all say, "Hey, I'm an atheist," just like a Christian walking down the street saying, "Hey, I'm a Christian," and nobody looks at them. You know, with
Yep.
you know,
That's right.
I do have a lot of respect for them.
We're
Well, that's
in.
why, like, one of my friends that I used to work with, she's a very out atheist, makes no qualms, and I'm talking about where I live. She went and had a big old A. Now, it's on her lower back. I mean, you know, it's obviously covered, but she proudly displayed it on her Facebook page, and I have to give her a lot of credit.
Yeah.
But she's like me, she don't give a fuck.
I hope to one day you know, I think that the day that I get to that point will be the day that my kids turn 18.
There you go.
Yeah.
Yeah,
There,
because you got issues with that whole thing that you have to be careful about.
Right.
Yeah. I just want to say shout out to my buddy Devin there. How you doing? And he just said he was both happy and sad about the special. In the end, the words used to make things seem like atheism was just another religion. Well, they didn't really talk about the biggest reasons why people leave religion, and they didn't talk about prominent atheists in history as if as if it is a new thing Richard Dawkins dreamed up, because you know he's the father of atheism.
no, he's our pope, didn't you know?
Yeah, but you know, there's been a lot of grief about that, and yes, it was stupid of them to say, but from the theist perspective, where they always seem to need some kind of leader, I
Yes.
I think they have a really hard time grasping that atheism really is not structured like a religion in any way, shape, or form. We don't have a leader. We don't have a creed or a list of things that we're supposed to believe. And they just have a hard time grasping that.
They have a hard time believing that something without structure is functioning just.
Exactly. And yes, we're like herding cats, but you know, we function pretty well as a bunch of aimless cats.
Yeah. Well, I think one criticism I did hear was it was a clip I was watching is a lot of people had difficulty with how they defined atheism,
Yes, that was a little.
and it's like, gee, that's kind of simple. But it gets back to the whole Dawkins is our Pope, God delusion is our Bible. Um, Hitchens was our spokesperson when he was alive, and that's now being transferred to Michael Shermer, yada, 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 yada. Not to take anything away from the contributions of everybody, but I don't follow any of them. I mean, I do, but like you said, we have no creed. I take what I can from them, good and bad.
Yep, exactly.
Evidence is our creed.
Yeah, they're exact perfect.
Yeah. Show me the evidence. Oh, well, that was it was a good show though. I mean, it was a lot better than I thought it might be. So, it's certainly not perfect, and there was a lot wrong with it, but it was a decent start, I thought.
Well, it was a step forward.
Yes.
It was definitely one to have a show focused on solely atheist on CNN. Yeah. You got to think about it. I was sitting in the middle. I was sitting in a hotel lobby Saturday while Bobby was in class, and the thing that played all day long was CNN TV.
Yep.
So I thought it was pretty awesome.
At least it was CNN and not Fox.
Somebody said, well, hey, same kind of thing. It could have been Fox. I said, oh, shit, if Fox had a show like that, they would have CGI'd horns and a tail on Silverman.
Yeah. I do have to give him credit, though, because he has gone on Bill O'Reilly a couple times. And he knows ahead of time he's just going to be lambasted, but he does it, and I got to give him credit for that, because how he does not leave there not wanting to punch Bill O'Reilly in the face.
Well, were you listening when he was on Forbidden Fruit, Beth? Did you hear that interview when Silverman was on Forbidden Fruit?
I don't know. Probably. I'm going to say no.
I was like back in November or something, but I distinctly remember because Ken was talking to him about his time on CNN and stuff, and Silverman was saying, well, I sometimes get grief because, why didn't you say this, or why didn't you say that when O'Reilly said such and such? Why didn't you make this comeback? He said, because I know I only have X amount of time, and in X amount of time, there are certain things that I want to make sure that I say and I get out there to the millions of viewers. So I might pass up an opportunity to counter something he said for an opportunity to say something that I think is more important.
Right. Yeah, he said that. He said that in other interviews too. And one interview I had listened to him, he said that sometimes some of the shit that he says dumbfounds me so much I have no clue what to say in response.
Yeah.
And it's like, like the tide goes in, the tide goes out.
Yep. You got it.
Sometimes I can come up with derp.
All right, well, let's get on to tonight's topic, ghost hunting. So as folks may or may not know, all three of us ladies have spent some time dabbling in the paranormal investigation circuit, so we all have a few things to talk about. And I did some digging around, and I found a bunch of video from my former team. So we'll have some good examples to look at in a bit. Oh yeah, you get to see me sitting in the dark, listening for ghosts. Yep. Oh yeah. So
the question is, it good to look back and go, what was I thinking?
Yeah, it works, I know what I was thinking, so we'll talk about that. So. For starters, so Ashley, I know you've done a bit of investigating. Beth hasn't really done investigating per se, but you've done investigating, right, Ashley?
Yes, I have.
What was your idea or reasoning for getting into that?
Ghost Adventures. We actually started watching the show, and I went on a vacation in St. Augustine which is one of the most haunted cities in the United States. I have to make sure I
I
do.
Yeah.
thought Savannah was.
Um,
I thought Savannah was.
it actually was. I forgot what the name of the award it got that made it the most haunted city in the United States. Savannah is now. But St. Augustine, Savannah, Charleston, and New Orleans are, and some of the, she's laughing at me, are some of the top um, most haunted cities in the United States. Well, Savannah is, the downtown area of Savannah is supposedly built on its dead. There was
Well,
a
you got dead guys in the airport, so you know.
point. Well, the cemetery, the oldest cemetery in Savannah, actually used to stretch a little bit further, towards the river and, on both sides of the cemetery, but they have built roads and put bricks and buildings and stuff. So literally we say we're walking on our dead. But I just, said, oh, let's start go investigating Savannah. Why not? We live here.
Yep.
We started going and hitting all the different areas and going down with our big Great Dane dog, and I would take my kids, and we started snapping pictures with our cell phones.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. And we're like, oh, did you see that? And we're seeing all these little orbs. And then, Bobby started doing research on orbs and how, those are not really, that's not dust, and how to tell the difference between dust and orbs and everything else. Then we actually went on a tour of Savannah. A
Mm-hmm.
haunted tour of Savannah. And, we got a little bit more information and we was like, hey, this sounds pretty cool. So we decided to open up our own touring company. Haunted touring company. Well,
Yep.
needless to say, Savannah is overpopulated with haunted tours, so we didn't make it. But we really started getting into going to the houses that have been here for 200 years, and we went and we even bought all the equipment that you needed, the recorders. We started doing recordings in our own house because it was literally over 50 years. Bobby would wake up with a scratch on him, and I
Mm-hmm.
didn't do it, and I know I didn't do it. So it was just little things that started, making us think, okay, yeah, this shit's real.
Yep.
And then of course I went into the skeptic mode, and now I watch Ghost Adventures and laugh.
Yeah.
I mean, the biggest thing was that because I mean, I lived in, the most haunted city in the United States, and how cool will it be to go and find my own ghost?
Yep. So, Beth, what was your interest in the whole paranormal stuff?
Let's see if I can do a Reader's Digest version.
All right.
It was kind of by accident. Well, I won't say. How the hell do I explain that?
Accidentally ran into a ghost.
When I was living in Kansas, I got mixed up in a really odd situation. It ended up with me slitting open my arm and putting my head through a wall. I ended up with 16 stitches in my arm, and I didn't let them put stitches in my head, but I have a 4-inch scar across my forehead. I ended up back in a psych ward. And for the longest time, I do and I don't. So I was recovering from that. I got sent back to PA. I ended up back here. I had a, quote, ghost experience, and I know I wasn't hallucinating. But, and there's, the but in there. So, just out of curiosity, one day after this experience, I typed in ghost experiences into Google. I never had an interest in the paranormal, never had an interest in ghosts. I didn't not believe in them. I didn't believe in them. I just didn't think about it.
Mm-hmm.
So I got led to a few different sites, one that I'm actually still affiliated with. I I have numerous friends that are involved. So I was exploring that, trying to come up with an explanation for what happened to me in Kansas.
Mm-hmm.
Because, I mean, yes, I do have bipolar, and I do have a prevalence for psychotic breaks. In other words, I'll get too manic and I literally lose my marbles. But I knew at the time that isn't what happened. It was just trying to get answers. So yeah, and I never got into the investigating part, but I listened to numerous radio shows and I was guest on some and yada yada yada. But the more I started looking into it, the more I started to realize there is nothing new.
Mm-hmm.
If you listen to any of the shows, if you watch any of the shows, if you listen to investigators on different podcasts, it's never anything new.
Yep.
There's no new technology. There are no new experiences. You go to places like Waverly or Savannah or Eastern State, there's nothing new.
No.
I mean, yeah, they'll take something like the Ovilus or they'll take something like the Ghost Box. But if you look at the quote technology, and that's where, for me, because of my science background, there's nothing new. And that's what I got stuck on. It was just like, wait a minute, you're rehashing a story that happened 5 years ago, and there's nothing new. And I mean, I was more into what they call the metaphysical, and I'm not using that in the proper philosophy sense. I got more interested in the religious aspect, and that led me down a whole different path, i.e. Nephilim.
Yep.
It just, yeah, I mean, I did go on one, I'll say, kind of sort of an investigation, but it wasn't like traipsing around a quote haunted house.
Mm-hmm.
But it was more, I mean, we were, stationary, and it was actually at a convention and stuff. I mean, it was interesting in the sense. And did I possibly experience something? Maybe. But it's just trying to find, for me, was trying to find the quote science behind it. I mean, the real science behind it. And I've never really found anything to satisfy me.
Yeah. Well, I mean, so I got I've always been a history nerd, right? And
Yeah.
And I've always kind of gravitated toward creepy old buildings and whatnot. But for me, I think a lot of the draw was the desire that some kind of, like, I haven't believed in a soul since, like, I was a teenager. But my take on it was perhaps there's some way that energy from the brain could carry on as some kind of consciousness, which in retrospect there's no proof that anything like that could actually happen, and I've come to the conclusion that that's not going to work either. But that was my way of thinking around it, and for me, I think a lot of it was I kind of hoped that maybe some of the people that I lost could have somehow hung around that way. So for me it was a lot of wishful thinking, and I can say that at the time I was more like, and I really thought I was being rational about it, and kind of, well, this is more kind of scientific. If I think about, energy and perhaps, it can stay cohesive, or, but what the fuck did I know? I don't know shit about brains or neuroscience or anything. So, but that was my rationalization behind it. And being a history nerd and being able to go into old houses and stuff, I just really thought that was cool. What was that, Beth?
Well, one of the things that I discovered, I mean, this has only been in the last 4 years.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so I mean, you're talking, I was an atheist even at the time, and that doesn't mean anything other than that we can be silly in
Yeah.
our woo, as just as anybody else is. But as I started really looking into, I'll say, their belief systems, it is a cult. It is a religion.
Yeah.
And people, and that, I think, when I realized that, it was like, oh shit. Because if you think about it, if you dissent from the quote mainstream of the paranormal, you're going to get slammed and smashed. I
Yeah.
mean, there's some people that will outright get vindictive. I've
Well,
seen it.
where we are, we were actually probably one of the best groups in the entire area, to be honest. And I don't mean that to sound arrogant, but we did for a couple of years really have our shit together more so than most groups. I mean, I was telling you guys, I mean, we not only had a website, we had a fucking 800 number hotline. We had, like magnets on our cars. We had, and this is the funny part, we used to do raise money by making our own DVD, quote, episodes and selling them. We had a booth at the local psychic fair. We were doing all kinds of shit. We were always on the ticket for the fair. We were probably one of the biggest draws to the psychic fair. And, we were really hog wild. And you mentioned Waverly. And so for me, this is actually really recent. It's only been 2 years since I've been out of the group. So in 2013, summer of 2013, we paid $1,000 and drove to Kentucky and spent the night in Waverly. And for those of you who maybe don't know, Waverly Hills Sanatorium, it's an old tuberculosis hospital from the 1920s that's supposed to be one of the most haunted buildings in all of North America, if not the most haunted. It depends who you talk to, but it's supposed to be like really, really active. It's this hulking shell of a giant brick cement building. It's got fucking gargoyles on the top. It's really fucking creepy. And, we spent $1,000 and drove hundreds of miles down there, and we didn't have a goddamn thing happen all night. Like, nothing. And I mean, like, they're all of the biggest ghost shows have done investigations there. Like the show that that got me really into it, I came across on back in the day when I was downloading TV. I got it's an English show called Most Haunted. So it's only recently been broadcast in North America and usually on travel channels because they go to all these exotic old places all over England and parts of Europe. So they market it on the Travel Channel. But that was my favorite show for a long time, and that was what they've been there to Waverly Hills. Ghost Hunters, Ghost Adventures, like all of the big names have been to Waverly Hills. And they've been, there's been balls moving and all kinds of weird shit there. And to be there, with our team, and I mean, we had pretty decent equipment. One of our team members worked for a firm that creates artificial intelligence for camera systems. So we actually had artificial intelligence software attached to our remote cameras that no one else in the world had because this company only had sold the software to like international airports and such. So I mean, we had some pretty kick-ass. We had an infrared camera. We had some pretty kick-ass equipment, and to go the whole night and not see anything. And and what stuck out in my mind too was when Most Haunted did the place, one of the main people have a little morgue in there, And the guy, his name's Carl Beatty, who's on Most Haunted, he crawled in one of the morgue drawers and came out and had scratches all down his back. So guess where I had to go? Followed my ass in that morgue drawer. And I'm sitting there going, okay, so it's not very comfortable, and it's kind of damp, and kind of, we were there in August, but it was still a little chilly, and I'm like, okay, there's probably spiders, but I don't see or hear anything, so I don't know. That was really the beginning of the end for me, because that was supposed to be like the pinnacle of places that we could go in North America. I mean, like Eastern State Penn would have been another one, but Waverly was pretty high up there, and just a lot of the times,
it's considered.
like, yeah, it's considered huge. And other than, I loved being in an old historical building like that. And myself and another team member, we actually went to the Historical Society in Louisville earlier that day and did research. And that was really cool, because we got to see some really cool shit in the Historical Society. They were really gracious, and we got to look at some really old and rare documents, and that was awesome. Like, I love that. But as far as finding anything remotely like a ghost, yeah, no. And a lot of the things, and I'm going to showcase some of the stuff with the video I have, but a lot of the things that I did think might be something, I have since found and read about things that could explain those things. So, I mean, there's all kinds of stuff,
Yeah,
like... Go ahead. Go ahead.
No, finish.
I was just going to say there's...
Well, I was just going to say one of the things, like...
Go.
No, you're saying one of the things that got you out of it. I think my biggest thing, as far as... I won't say that I've lost interest in it, because I do still follow it, but for different reasons, is if you watch any of the shows... I can't remember which one specifically, because there's one show that it's always something bad, i.e. demons.
That would be Paranormal
Okay.
8.
Yes.
Okay. I couldn't remember which. I've never watched any of the shows. I think I've seen maybe 2 shows total, and that would be John Zaffis' show, and that's because I've actually talked to him. But anybody that knows my background knows that I have an issue when someone says it's demons.
Yeah. Well, it
gets into the whole...
They got hooked up with Lorraine Warren, that's why, because everything that woman comes across, oh, it's a demon. Ah. And for those of you who don't know, Lorraine Warren is the, quote, psychic that initially investigated the Amityville horror house in the 70s with her husband.
Yeah, And the problem with that is, like, last year, beginning in January 1st, I follow, I mean, if it says demons or demonology or exorcism or deliverance ministry, I will post it. I will follow it. And part of the problem I was seeing, there was a pattern developing.
Yeah.
And being which, if you noticed in the news, especially in the beginning of, starting January 1st, not this year, but 2014, for 13 weeks straight, every day, I posted at least one story where a parent or caregiver either killed or maimed their child because they thought they were demon-possessed for 13 weeks straight. And I'm not just talking in this country, I'm also Europe, and also it's very prevalent in Africa, parts of Africa, the continent, not the country. Where this is, and even in Muslim countries with the jinn. that's where I started seeing the problem, and that's why I bring in the whole religious aspect, is that it's dangerous, especially in the wrong hands. I mean, you
Oh,
have people that are saying that they're demonologists and that they can rid you of these bad spirits. So
yeah.
that's
So,
when the
mm-hmm. Go ahead.
no, I was saying that was the kicker for me. One of the
Yeah.
kickers, anyways.
Well, and I mean, go ahead, Ashley.
I was just going to say one of the kickers was for me was we actually have a hospital here. As a matter of fact, it's the hospital I was born in, and it's not because I was born in it, but shortly after I was born, they shut the hospital down, and this was in '77, so they probably shut it down '78, '79, and it was the women's hospital. Well, nobody has ever reopened it since then because they said it was so haunted that people who were attempting to try to go in there and fix it back up and open it back up would always be attacked by something. So they could never go in there and get anybody to re- rebuild it and refurbish it and everything else. Well, in the last year and a half, which is about the same time that I was like, okay, okay, really, is this real? Was because a law school came in and built it up and open and no problems whatsoever. And I'm like, okay, are you telling me that the ghosts like law students?
Because that would be the last thing you'd think, anybody, let alone a ghost, would like.
Exactly.
Is
So that
stairs.
was like one of that was like one of the first things, and then I started paying attention to, instead of focusing on what, like the show's Ghost Adventures, instead of focusing on what they were finding, I started being a skeptic, going, okay, well, that noise could have been made from the person that's standing behind the cameraman with the microphone holding in between them. I
Yeah.
started, I started picking it.
Yep. Exactly. And I always did that to some degree, but I had this desire that I really wanted it to be true, so it was hard to. There were things that I let slide that I shouldn't have let slide, and I can look back and see that now. But I was going to say, let me play the first little clip that I have. This is it's a couple of clips together, but this is a private home. And interestingly, the lady whose house it is, she was a self-described witch, and ironically had 5 black cats. But we had, we actually, because we were there in the summer, so we had herded up all the cats and put them in the garage, so we wouldn't be like, "Ooh, it's a shadow! Oh no, it's a cat!" all night, because we totally would have. But yeah, this is a couple of goings on now. The first one part is a noise that we heard, and I'll talk about that. And the other one is something called a flashlight technique, which we'll talk about after as well. But let me do the share thing here. And yeah, it was fun to realize I still had this thing kicking around the file. Oh no, why won't you give me?
I know I just took our Facebook page down probably about 3 months ago from when we had our touring company, and it had all of our pictures on it. I wish I wouldn't have now.
I don't mind it. I mean, it's out there, but
True.
it one of those things. Okay, here we go. Hopefully my computer's a little faster. Or not. Like I keep saying, I can edit this out before I upload the audio.
See, I'll show you guys. See, you really did. Your recorder probably will. It's just like boom, boom, boom. And I'll what is that? Boom, boom, boom. And I'll what is that? Boom, boom, boom. And I'll what is that?
The cat toys in there.
No, just shh.
I only have one bell.
Did anybody hear that?
Yeah, jingling.
Yeah, you're jingling.
It was
There's
a
a
bell,
jingle.
and the
There's
only
a bell.
bell I got is in my room downstairs.
Really?
Yes. That was a bell, and I'm sorry, no one's got chimes down the street that I hear outside at all.
No.
I've never in a million years heard that until the day I rang.
There's that too. That light was on before. Right?
Yeah, it was.
Shit.
I was looking right at it.
Okay, so you're down here with us. That's good news. Do you think you could turn a flashlight on and off for us? How about we use that to communicate?
I've set this flashlight so if you just touch it, even the slightest, very back of it like I am right now.
And I'd like to point out that we were dumb enough not to actually angle a camera on the fucking flashlight. just thought I'd point that out.
It's gonna turn on. Let us know you're here.
Just tap it, move it to turn on, and then tap it, move it. I'm going to ask you a couple questions. If you are in this room with us right now, touch the flashlight and make that flashlight turn on. Justin, if you're in this room with us right now, touch the flashlight and make that flashlight turn on so we know it's you that is trying to communicate with us. Try really, really, really hard. I know you can do it.
Alright, I'll move it closer to you. We'll move it away from us.
And we still didn't think to move the camera so we could see the fucking flashlight.
Move it over here for you, okay? Far, far away from us. All you have to do is just light little tap. That's
That's me on the far right on the sofa, by the way.
all it's gonna take. That's all it's gonna take, right there. Alright? Not a whole lot. Holy
Good for you, Justin. That was very, very good.
Good job,
Good
buddy.
for you. Wow, I'm amazed.
There's the camera showing there.
Good for you, Justin.
Whoa.
Okay, now I'm going to ask you a question, okay?
Let me play Mike. I just saw it with the tiniest little flicker right there.
Okay.
Could our, like, is this?
So for those who are going to listen to this later, I just said, hey, let me play Mike. Mike was our tech sciencey geek guy who wasn't there at that time. So it says here, play Mike means talking about specialist Mike Kowalski, a verb used to denote an intent to rationalize a perceived paranormal event. So I was trying.
The cement floor. Yeah.
Okay.
And so there, he's banging on the ground as an attempt to see if varying levels of shock would be enough to set the flashlight off, and it didn't respond at that time to the bangs.
Now, we just want to make
Okay.
sure.
Are there 4 entities?
So now we thought, hey, let's put a fucking camera on the flashlight.
3?
Four.
Wow.
There's four. You said three, it didn't come on, and then as soon as you said four, it flickered. And then it flickered again, so I assume there's four here right with us right now.
I'm going to ask these questions again. Is there one entity in this room with us right now? No. Are there 4 entities in this room with us? Wow. Couldn't even get the word out. 4.
Five. Okay. Is there 5 of entities in this room with us right now?
Yes.
Wow.
Okay, so
Right. So in the first part, this bell jingling, the lady who owned the house, and that's the main female voice that you kept hearing was the homeowner. She had her witchy room down directly below the bedroom we were in, so that she had a bell on her altar, and that was the bell noise that we heard. We actually tested it later. We had somebody go downstairs and ring it while we were standing up in the bedroom, and that's what it sounded like. And as far as we knew, there was no one in the house to do that. But now I think to myself, well, how do I know that, she didn't give a key to somebody to sneak in or what, whatnot. So it was freaky at the time, but there are things that I could think of that might explain that. So,
well,
yeah,
first
that
of
was
all, the homeowner was there,
yes.
so she's gonna want, for lack of a better word, for things to happen while you guys are there.
Yep.
And usually, how it's been explained to me in the past is that Ghost Hunting 101, the individuals involved should not be there.
Mhm. But it's hard because oftentimes they don't want a bunch of strangers roaming around in their house.
Right.
Right.
Yeah. Yeah.
And
with private homes, it makes it a little bit more difficult.
Yeah.
But yeah, she said, "Oh, I don't have a bell on me." Well, how do you know?
Yeah, good point. We were just trusting her, and we're all sitting in the dark. We're all sitting in the dark, so how the hell are we gonna know? Because there was a bit of light from a street light coming in the window behind. I was the one sitting on the bed, and there was a wee bit of like ambient light, but it was pretty dark. So
yeah.
But
and let me ask you this: why did you do it in the dark?
Because we've always been told that spirits prefer the dark and they're more active at night.
Yes, between the hours of 12 a.m. and 4 a.m.
Yes.
Yes,
yep.
yes.
And now you think about it, and it's like, who the hell came up with that idea? It's just because it's more spooky at night and you can't see that somebody's got a fucking string or something going on in the dark.
And they were always active after rainstorms, too.
Oh, yeah.
Yes. And how do you know you weren't sitting on a quartz deposit?
Mm.
Or one of the ley lines.
Oh, yes, a ley line. No, it's a vortex, don't you know? It's a vortex.
Yes, then we have the vortex. Now, did you sense any change? Did you sense any changes in the air temperature?
Oh, we have had that before. Yeah, not on this.
And I have actually in the one have actually experienced that, and it was kind of freaky.
Yeah.
Because granted, with the location we were at, but we purposely had them shut off the HVAC to the room to minimize that effect.
Like what we used to do, we used to go to that location either a day or two before or earlier the same day and try and get a feel for what are the normal sort of noises and goings on of the building kind of thing. But realistically...
your baseline.
Yeah, a baseline. But realistically, and this is where my mind goes now, if we're only there for a few hours, how can we be sure that that's all of the sort of ambient happenings that go on in that house when we don't actually live there? You know, if we stayed there for several days and, bunked out at the place, then we might have a better sense of what's normal for that building. But, you know, it's hard to do. Devin, go ahead.
Talked about, remember when I was talked earlier about we used to take our dog down there. We had a Great Dane.
Mm.
So when we would go in downtown Savannah, between the hours of 12 and 4, we always wanted to make sure that, we had this huge dog so that nobody would mess with us, because they'd see this huge dog and be like, okay, we're not messing with them.
Yep.
But we also went down there with another purpose of taking the dog. Remember, they used to always say that dogs
Yes.
see them. So
Yep.
we figured, hey, the dog would get, would like freak out because they saw something, and we just start snapping pictures.
Yep.
Dog, none.
Mm-hmm.
We never caught anything on camera.
No. We caught orbs, but there's so many regular explanations for those things. It's ridiculous.
Yes.
But, the flashlight thing too is interesting, because at the time, like, and as you see, I was like, okay, is this a cement floor? Like, can there be and he's like pounding on the floor, going, nope, see, nothing happens. Well, but now I think, okay, this is in a basement, and the furnace was in a room just around the corner, and if that cap is so loose, who's to say that airflow couldn't have jiggled that thing just enough? Because I didn't, we had something like a half hour of video of that shit, and I was watching again going, wow, this is really fucking boring. But there was one point, I know, at the time I was like, oh, look at the flashlight. Now I'm like, wow, I sat and watched this fucking shit. Wow. But there was one point where the light came on and it didn't go off for like 5 or 7 minutes, right? And that, yeah. What were you going to say, Beth?
Well, I think a lot of times what it is that, I mean, it comes down to matrixing. I mean, we are used to seeing patterns, and we look for patterns, and anything that doesn't fit that pattern, we consider it anomalous.
Mm-hmm.
So when you have something like the, quote, flashlight protocol, I mean, anything, and like you said, it's very touchy. You have to have it. What they do is they screw the flashlight to the point where the connection is very variable. It's just like the electrodes are just touching, but not, so any little thing, like you said, the airflow will set it off. But if you're already looking for that on-off, you're going to see it no matter what. Yeah. And the chances of it correlating with a question is pretty high. And, and it's like, in our logical fallacies, you talk about the, correlation is not causation.
That's right. Well, and the other thing you can think of, too, if that thing is really, really that loose, who's to say that just the air of your own breath speaking towards it couldn't just touch it enough, right? Because there's a few times where it flickered so quickly that I couldn't even see it on the video. And I remember, because I was there, I was like, ooh, I remember, but I don't see it on the video. And, it's far enough away that probably isn't the case, but I couldn't rule out that just speaking at it wouldn't disrupt the airflow just that tiny bit to make it flicker. You don't know. And that to me would be a rational reason why it might seem to come on demand through questioning. But see, if you look at it, he's going, are there 5 entities here? Or he says, is there 1 entity here? Yes. Is there 4 entities here? Yes. Is there 5? So why wouldn't it wait till you got to the right number, right? Because the idea is we do it that loose because the assumption is it takes so much energy for this entity to jiggle it that, you know, that's why that's all it can do. That's why we have to, it's not strong enough to hit the fucking switch on the flashlight, right? So it takes all of that energy. Why wouldn't it wait until you got to the right number?
Mm-hmm.
Well, my one question, with the whole flashlight trick, is why not take the batteries out completely?
Ooh, that's a good one. I like that.
Because if they are generating, quote, energy...
Just make the bulb come on.
Oh, and the answer I always got, they don't generate enough.
Yeah. It's there's always some kind of rationalization behind it.
Yeah, I never understood, like, especially on some of the shows, how...
But then they... Go ahead, Ash.
No, I was just going to say, I never could understand on the shows how, you know, spirits, ghosts could drain all the energy from everybody's cameras, and then have no energy to turn the flashlight on.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, my favorite one, too, is like, okay, so if they're draining the energy from the cameras, or they have to generate enough energy to, quote, manipulate the flashlight, then how are we getting EVPs?
Yeah. Oh, now you brought up EVPs.
Okay, the reason being, and this is one hypothesis that I've heard, is that it takes energy for them to generate the vocalizations needed because they have no vocal cords.
Yeah.
Because they're ghosties.
Yeah.
Or spirits.
Yep.
Or jinn. Or demons.
Well, now that you brought up the whole EVP thing, I have another clip of some of what we at the time considered our best EVPs. I'm gonna play them. There is a bit of video that goes with it. It'll repeat what it says a couple of times, and then it tells you what it's supposed to say. And I know, Ashley, you've all been over this, and we can talk about that after. So let me see if I can get this thing going. I gotta find a faster way to do this, man.
Question.
Yes.
On the clip you're going to play, do you do suggestive, like, before you play the clip, do you say this is what we think it says, and then you play the clip?
No, it plays it at least twice, and then plays what we think it says. Okay.
Okay, there's a reason why I asked that question.
Oh, I know.
I'll wait until you play, play the clip, and we'll see.
It's supposed to be playing, hopefully. Yeah. The other ones that they liked to play. There was a place we used to like to go. It was called the Blue Ghost Tunnel, and Beth, you may have even heard of it. It's in Niagara region. The Blue Ghost Tunnel. It's by Welland. You ever heard of it?
I've heard the name, but That's
Okay.
about all I can say.
It's an abandoned Victorian railroad tunnel that has one of the old Welland canals going over it, and it drips water continuously. So
Okay.
I never could hear those EVPs. A couple of the team members would swear they could hear them, and they would even say what it was supposed to say. All I could hear is dripping water. But so these are the clear ones that weren't in the fucking tunnel full of dripping water. Now that first one.
Well,
yeah, go ahead.
I was gonna say I'm very hard of hearing, so
Okay.
for me to hear an EVP
Yes.
is very difficult.
Yes.
I read lips, so basically any audio I have to crank up or I don't hear properly.
Right.
So when I listen to EVPs, I turn the volume up, but I really don't hear anything.
Yeah.
Until I know what it says.
Right.
Now and the reason I asked if you told us what it said first is that if you listen to an EVP, I can guarantee you're not going to know what it says. Unless it's blatantly clear. Now the last two on your clip, I could hear perfectly.
Okay.
Okay. Now this is, we all hear at different ranges.
Yep.
Some people hear more bass, some hear more treble, some don't hear anything at all.
Yep.
But the first one sounded like it said, "You lied to me."
Yeah. It's
okay.
It's clearer than that, but it's yeah. And in all honesty, so that particular one, I was present for that as well. And it's one of the clearest ones that we ever had. And at the time, like our I call him skeptic guy, he called himself a realist, but whatever. He was like, because he was not present, and he said someone spoke that into the recorder. And I said, I was there. Every single person that I knew was there was within my eyesight, so I know it didn't happen that way. But as you and I were talking about before the show, I now, using Audacity that I use to edit my show and the creation moments and stuff, I could totally make that now. So even though I know no one spoke into that when I was present, I don't know what happened to it after it left my site.
Yeah, and I'm not. If my understanding of a program like Audacity, and I use it as well, it's the layering effect.
Yeah.
And I know there are programs available, probably for a pretty penny, where you can take that audio track and separate it out. And I would be curious to get the raw audio and see what would happen.
Yeah, I don't think I have access to that anymore. But that one at the time was incredibly convincing to me, because I was there and I knew where everybody was. But now, as I say, I now know of ways where that could have been altered without my presence. So, and the other ones, the one where it said Unity Center, that's like a
I was about to point out.
What's that?
I was just about to point out, how cool was it that you were at the Unity Center?
I know. Yep, and they invited us in to investigate their church. Yep. And that the conclusion they drew from the thank you was that was a past minister who had passed away, who was thanking us for coming and clearing the negativity out of their church. Yes, Beth?
A can of worms, but this is also another one of my little caveats with this whole subject.
Yep.
A church with a ghost.
Yep.
And they think it was a former pastor. Do we see a problem with that, considering suffer the witch to die?
They're not. It's not a
Catholics in the
Christian.
Bible, and the other 250 plus verses in the Bible that talk about paranormal.
This isn't
Do you
your
see a problem with
typical.
that?
No, this isn't your typical church. They teach chakras in Sunday school, and they hold Reiki sessions.
Spiritualist church.
Yep.
Yes.
Energy.
Yep. They had a meditation room over the sanctuary that people could go and like meditate and get out their negative shit and whatever, and so everybody was convinced that all of the negative energy was in that room because, you know, that's where people went to get rid of their negativity. So it's an interesting experience, though. And then the last one there, oh shit, I don't even remember what it was supposed to have said now, but that was at the same house as the first one. And now that picture that you saw there, that was an iPhone dock in the shape of a ghost, ironically. And the homeowner would claim that and it happened while we were there, that her iPhone would just turn on and start playing a random song. And while we were there, it did randomly turn on and start playing something like House of Clowns or something. And another point, it turned on.
When you say turned on, was you know how you can power it down to where it's quote off?
Yeah, no, it was
that kind of turn on.
No, it was the phone
was on but not.
Yeah, that's right. It was on but dormant. But the thing is,
because my dumb.
Well, you see, the problem with that was, and of course our tech guy pointed that out, is right before the iPhone came to life and started playing music, it would make that sound through the speakers that it makes when it's receiving signals. You know, that yeah. So the theory is that there was some outside connection that was influencing the phone and making it turn on and play, because it would play a song that seemed to fit into whatever was going on at the moment. So
yeah, because even my $10 dumb phone does that.
Yeah, is that Ashley?
It's like,
I believe
it'll just that
you can trigger your you could. Things like that can cause your phone to do that. Our phone does it all the time.
Yeah.
And my iPhone is programmed to do it, but I could really freak some people out and have them go sit in my car, and I'll be sitting in my house, and I can lock and unlock my doors.
Oh, yeah.
So, I mean, you know, I can see how it can happen.
But now, Ashley, I was going to get to you because I know you did on your show with Shujin, you guys were talking about playing the music backwards, and you know, you listen to it backwards and you're like, well, what is that? And then somebody says, oh, it says this, and then suddenly, oh, now I can hear what it said.
Yep. It's putting the thought process, the words into your head, and you know,
power suggestion.
Yeah, there you go. That's the words I was looking for. You know, and then once they would tell me what it said, I'd be like, oh yeah, now I hear it.
Exactly, because we are always, our minds are trained to find patterns and recognize certain patterns of things and shapes and with our eyes and that sort of thing. And Ashley, do you remember what that's called?
No.
It's the pareidolia.
Yes.
Pareidolia. And so it's like when you look at the clouds and you're like, oh look, it's a bunny and that kind of shit, and it's like, no, it's a fucking cloud, but it sort of kind of looks like, because our minds are wired to do that. So we may listen to that kind of sound and go, well, I can kind of make some kind of form out of it, but if your mind hasn't got the sort of template to make it fit, then you're sitting there going, well, it sounds sort of like something, and then, oh, well, it says, how are you? Oh, well, yes, of course, that's what it says.
And the same thing could go for visual too, because I know, I know that when we would go on ghost tours, they would always give a descriptive of what the person looked like.
Good point.
And when people would snap pictures, or when you want so badly to see something, you get this description in your mind, and then when you snap the picture, you see it, and you're like, oh, that's it. Sorry.
Yeah, absolutely. I've seen like pictures like of my own that I took, and you're because we're in a haunted place, we're looking for stuff. So if I see a picture and it's like a room in an abandoned building, I'm not going to go, oh, it's a room in an abandoned building. I'm going to sit there like with a magnifying glass going, where is it? There's going to be, and then you're like, oh, that thing in the back corner sort of kind of looks like it could be a face, and it's we want it to be, so we see what we want to see.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, I know with one of the shows I used to be affiliated with, we would play EVPs or ghost box clips, and for the longest time, there'd be like maybe 20 of us in the chat room, and we'd all come up with different things until we were told what it was said.
Yep.
So, what would happen is, for the longest time, they would tell us what it said first, and then we'd, oh yeah. So what we did as an experiment is we told them, don't tell us what it says.
Yep.
Or what you think it says beforehand. And that's what we all, I think maybe one or two people would come up with what it actually said.
Yeah.
Because we didn't know ahead of time. But as soon as they said what it was, everybody's like, oh yeah. No.
Well,
that
would be perfect to do for EVPs, would be to take two groups of people.
Yeah.
Let one group, be, where they can't hear anything, and let the other group hear it, and then tell them, what it said, and go, oh yeah, I hear that. Then go to the other group, tell the group something totally different, but play the same thing.
Well, along that line, Unrenowned Tech actually just said, if you want to have fun with EVPs, gather a bunch of people whom all have different native languages and ask them to write down what they heard.
Ah.
That's a good one.
It is.
Question for you, Deb. When you guys did your quote EVP sessions,
yes,
did you audibly hear it as it was occurring, or was it after you recorded it that you heard it?
Only when you record. So for it to be a true EVP, that's part of the criteria, is that you cannot hear it audibly, that it's only on the recording.
The white noise.
Yeah. Now, there was a time when we were investigating a haunted cafe, and they had a second floor banquet room, and this is like a turn of the century building, and I was up there by myself with my camera, and they had a wall of Victorian era photographs, and I love old Victorian pictures. So I just had my camera and I'm filming, and there was a hall down my right, and I swear I heard a woman's voice saying, come here. But, it wasn't on the tape, because I was recording the video. I was recording the whole time, and it wasn't there. So, obviously, I misheard something. But at the time, it was like, oh my gosh, woo! And of course, the place is supposed to have been haunted by a woman in that area, so,
But do you think maybe it might have been your brain being trained to think, you wanted to hear something so bad?
Well, it could be. It could be. Like, I wasn't thinking about that at all at the time, but you never know what your subconscious can do to you. And see, for me, the group that I was in, a number of the people would have considered themselves to be sensitive, and the leader whom you heard talking, he felt that he could like actually communicate with entities and whatnot, and that kind of thing, and people would see things and people would feel things, and I would be the one going, huh? Where? I don't see anything. They'd be like, oh, look, there's an apparition. I'd be like, where? I don't see it, huh? So I was always kind of the one left out going, yeah, fucking ghosts don't show me shit. But but the power of the suggestion is so immense. Like, we don't even know what we're doing with that half the time. Like, I know some people that use pendulums. Have you guys seen or heard how that works at all with a pendulum?
Mm-hmm.
No? Well, yeah. For Ashley and for anybody else who might not know, the idea is you have a pendulum, and the bottom is usually like a crystal that's supposed to have specific characteristics and whatnot. So you hold this, and then you ask the ghost to make it swing a certain way. So, you know, are you male? And, you know, swing back and forth for yes and in a circle for no, kind of thing. And that's how you're supposed to get your answers. But the thing is, you can even though you may think you're not moving, the twitching in your muscles can be so subtle that they can make that thing move and you not realize that you're making it move. Because we tried it.
It's a simple.
Mm-hmm.
I was going to say it's a simplified Ouija board. Is
Yeah.
what it is.
Yeah, and we
coat hangers.
Yeah.
Divining rods.
Yes.
Oh, yes, there's another one. Because we tried experiments where we actually built like a frame to hold the pendulum. Now, the idea is you have to be physically touching the chain because the ghost needs your energy to make it move, right? So we would build like a frame so that we couldn't physically make it, and then like just put your finger on the top. So it's like, okay, I'm touching, and it would never move, right? When you weren't holding it freehand. Or I know one time I tried laying my arm like on the table, and so that I wasn't really moving my arm, and it didn't really move then either. So. Yeah. Oh.
let me ask you guys a.
I was just gonna say, unrenowned text says, you can hold our body perfectly still. Yeah, not accounting for the Earth's rotation.
Have you guys ever had an experience that you just cannot explain?
Possibly.
Yeah, possibly.
Okay, the reason I asked, here's my experience. Just before my girlfriend, she ripped off my former landlord, who I no longer live with. So she was arrested and placed in jail. About 2 weeks after she was in jail, I was on the computer, obviously, and I had to go use the facilities, and I walked into my bathroom, and there on the floor, now it was just me and my cat, was a black Barbie doll.
Oh.
Now, mind you, my Barbie dolls were, maybe I was 5 or 6.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, I lived above a storefront. Nobody else lives in this building. There were no children, nothing. How would you explain that?
So I would say somehow somebody got in and did that without your knowledge. That would
Nobody
be my...
can get in my apartment. Yeah.
You're aware of.
Yeah, the problem... Well, My apartment, access to my apartment was through the business. I did not have an outside door. In other words, somebody couldn't just walk into my apartment, especially while I was there.
Right.
They would have. This actually was after the businesses were closed, so nobody had access to my building or to my apartment.
Yeah. That's a toughie. That's a toughie. Well, now, this one, it probably, I think, has an explanation, but when the house that I lived in before I moved in here with Heretic Husband was supposedly really haunted, and I lived there for 15 years and I never saw shit, but you know, the ghosts hate me, they never show me anything. So, so when we were still dating, and he never had a television in the house. He's very much a reader. He likes his old newspaper and all of that. And whereas I had 5 televisions in my old place. That was before Wi-Fi and stuff. See, now I just have a tablet that I can carry to every room and do that. But so anyway, when I would come here, I was like, well, we can't even like cuddle up to watch a movie because you don't have a television. So I had a small, I think it was like a 13-inch TV that had been in my bedroom, and I brought that. I was going to bring that over here, and so I drive a station wagon, and I've got the remote keyless entry. So I come from the door, and I'd unlock the car from the doorway, and I put the keys. I had a shelf on the wall just inside the door that I would put shit on for whatever. So I put the keys up there, and the buttons on the remote were face down. I took and the TV wasn't that heavy. It was just a little awkward. And so I'm juggling the TV and the cord, and I go out to the car, and the car's unlocked, and I reach to the hatch to open it, and I hear boop boop, and the fucking thing locked on me. And I lived alone. So I'm like, motherfucker. So I walk back to the porch, and I put the TV down on the porch, and I go back. My first thought was, somehow or other, one of the cats got up, and the shelf was, like, not even a foot wide. So I'm like, somehow one of the cats has got up on the shelf and maybe knocked the keys on the floor or something. So I go back in the house. Keys are right where I left them, face down. So the buttons are like, they couldn't have even jumped up and swatted the button. So I'm like, okay. So I I unlock the car again, put the keys back down, back outside, pick up the TV, go to the door, reach out to open the hatch, boop boop, fucking locks again. And now I'm like, okay, what the fuck is this? And I'm looking around to see if I can see a person who's, you know, maybe somebody else is trying to open their vehicle and it's the same frequency or some shit like that. I don't see anybody around. I'm like, what the fuck? So then I go back, I put the TV down, go back in the house. This time I bring the keys with me. I go back out and open the car, and I was able to put the TV in. And I don't know how that happened, but text says the locks can time out. Yeah, that's the one and only time I've ever had that happen, and I've had this car for almost a decade. So it wasn't that. It's a 2004 too, so it doesn't do that. So I'm sure somebody somewhere had a lock, like one on the same. Yeah, yes, Miss Ashley.
I did.
Ah,
That's what I was going to tell you. I did. That's why I was slowly going. Yes, I'm a product of that. Yeah, I had a 2008 Malibu, and we could be driving down the road, and then all of a sudden the door locks just start going up and down, locking.
oh fuck.
Yeah, freaked. I'm telling you, this one freaked out. And you know, we're like, okay, well maybe maybe there's an electrical problem here or something. So we actually took it to the dealership. They couldn't find anything wrong.
Oh,
We had it put on the computer and everything. And driving down the road again, they just go. We literally said my car was possessed.
Send that car for a deliverance.
Yeah. And then it would go months without doing it. And then driving down the matter of fact, it did it on the way to it did it to us on the way to ReasonCon last year.
Oh shit.
You're driving up, to first off, you're driving up to your very first atheist, convention, and you're all of a sudden your car door locks just start going crazy. So, but needless to say, I don't have the car anymore, and I never figured out why it did that.
That's messed up, man.
You drove through dirty EMF.
Oh, that's it. Yeah.
A whole bunch of dirty EMF.
Oh shit. We're getting near the end here, so I'm gonna go ahead and play the last clip of the evening. So let's just get that going here. And this is an example of somebody trying to do automatic writing.
How old are you? It's okay, you can control me. You have my hand. Are you here because of the other kids that come here?
So have you guys seen or heard of that before? Automatic writing?
I haven't, but the first thing I thought of was, let me hold the pencil and see what happens.
Yeah. Exactly. And this goes back to the, doing your body doing things that you may not be aware of. But I mean, it's like the Ouija board, right? Everybody's like, oh, I'm not moving it. Well, yeah, you are. But what made me always laugh about automatic writing, at least whenever I saw it, is it was almost never anything intelligible. It was like, and you saw me sort of like drawing in circles and stuff. And if I recall from that was in the basement of that Unity church too. And Tech says, if you want to try auto writing, attach a pen to a comatose patient. That's true. Or just, knock somebody out and do that. I just hit the guy with a brick.
Okay, so will we see on the news that somebody got hit with a brick?
Yeah. Or Devin says, lay down the pen and just tell it, okay, right, tell me. Oh, man.
It would require all the energy from the camera.
Yes, it would. Yes, it would. That was always my favorite. Oh, my camera shut off. It must be a ghost. Yeah. Or, it has auto shut off or your battery's low. But, I mean, there are times, though, where, because that's something you do, is you always make sure that your batteries are all charged or you have fresh batteries and stuff. And, I mean, there were times where shit would run out of battery power and we'd be like, why the fuck would that happen? I don't get it. But, it could just be a faulty battery. It could be something in the atmosphere or in that area is causing the electronic to suck extra power. Who knows? I don't know how that shit works.
AA batteries.
Yep. Oh, fuck. My kit used to have like this giant bag of batteries in it. I mean we were to the point where I actually kept what I called a go bag because we would get emergency calls to go to somebody's house.
Well, you
Yep.
gotta admit, we do have to admit, there was one thing about all this. It was fun doing it.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, I got to go in like the back rooms of businesses and into businesses that were, closed and being prepped for renovation. And there's one building in the area. It's a Victorian era hotel. And it's huge. It's beautiful. Like the outside is just gorgeous. The inside, it's one of those properties where there's been multiple attempts to refurbish it, and the funding keeps falling through, or they'll have permit problems. And so the inside's not that great, but it's this beautiful old hotel, and it's very well known in the area. And we're the only group that was given permission to go in. And that was actually my very first investigation. So I got to go in a local landmark on Halloween with the group. So, I mean, that was pretty cool. That was pretty cool because no one has legally been in that building in decades. So, and we had, and I mean, it's the kind of thing where we had permission, the caretaker was there with us, and still within half an hour of our being there, someone called the cops. and the caretaker was there like, nope, this is cool, we have, they have permission and whatever. But, somebody in the area like, oh my God, there's lights in there, call the police. So, those are great experiences, and going to Waverly Hills, that was pretty awesome. I loved it. Yeah.
Well, I have to admit that if I lose y'all immediately, I just got a notification. No, really, seriously, my battery's dying.
Oh no!
For real, it says you have 10% battery. It was full when I started this.
Get a fucking outlet.
I was like, really? All this stuff we've been doing and about the batteries dying, and now my battery's dying.
Oh, fuck. But yeah, the long and the short of it is, I think that with some proper investigation, I think that you can eventually find a rational explanation for just about any weird shit like that.
Right.
Like if you think you see something, it's your mind trying to form into a recognizable something what you're seeing. Hearing things, same kind of deal. There are other things that we didn't even get time to get into, like there are theories that sensitivity to electromagnetic fields can cause some feelings like you're being watched and that you're haunted or something.
EMF.
I know. I've got one.
EMF. Yeah, that's.
Yep. Absolutely. So, ladies, so Beth, where can everybody find you?
Well, before I go into that, going back to our Robert Beatty episode on Kent Hovind, for those not aware, Kent Hovind is set for retrial on May 15th.
Yes.
They are going after him for the other 3 charges that he was not convicted of. Some people say, well, isn't that double jeopardy? No, it's not. It was a hung jury. In other words, he was not found guilty, nor was he acquitted. So it will be interesting. So I'll be keeping an eye on that. Robert will keep me updated. But the easiest place to find me is Dune9998, and that's on Twitter, and that does link to my blog, which I haven't been writing as much, so I've been posting news stories just through Twitter right now as I'm in the midst of a doozy.
Yeah. Cool. And Miss Ashley, where are you at?
I am at Miss_, Ashley NRR on Twitter. You can also find me on Facebook under, well, no, don't find me on Facebook. Um, you can find our show, No Religion Required, at www.noreligionrequired.secularmediagroup.com, and we can also be found on iTunes.
Yay! And where are we going to be found in about 4 weeks' time?
We are all going to be found at ReasonCon 2015.
Uh-huh.
Countdown now.
Right, that's right. Absolutely. Oh, and a little bit about our ghost hunting thing. Keep an eye out for after we come back that we're going to be screening a new mini feature film regarding ghost hunting, starring me and Miss Ashley and maybe some other folks. So we'll keep you posted on that. But we have some plotting going on, so we'll keep for that. So first of all,
Also, don't forget to mention.
mhm.
I was going to say, don't forget to mention our moving to back to Mondays.
Yeah, I was about to say that. Yeah, you interrupted
Woo!
me. That's okay.
I read your mind.
You did. Woo! So yeah, next week we are actually not going to have a show on Wednesday. We're going to take a little bit of a breather because on April 6th we will be moving back to our previously regular Monday night. So you'll be able to catch us back on Mondays. It'll be a little easier. Beth won't have to run breathless from downstairs to make it in time. And Miss Ashley won't have to race from Atheist Bible Study to get here on time. So be all easier for everybody. So I will post a reminder through the Facebook channels that I usually do next week that there will not be a show on April 1st. There will be a show on April 6th. Okay, so keep that in mind. But this coming Monday, on March 30th, I will be appearing on The Age of Reason with Neo-Atheist and our good friend Dave Foda, and we're going to be talking about Thomas Paine. So that's going to be really awesome, considering the show is already called The Age of Reason. Our friend Neo-Atheist Mike Phelps' show, so check us out on Secular Media, that's yours, Secular TV. Check us out on Secular TV Monday at 10 p.m. And that's the Age of Reason show. So we will be there. And on the 8th of April, I will also be appearing on another show on Secular TV called Beyond God. So I'll remind you guys of that later too, but check me out on there. You can find me there. As well as my other show, My Secular Savior, at mysecularsavior.com. And we're going to have a new episode out for that really, really soon. Kai and I have been kind of busy, so we really apologize we haven't got one out sooner. But we are on it, and we'll get one out to you lickety-split. And lastly, I would very much like to thank Mr. D. Wayne for our new graphic that we opened the show with. That's going to be our new logo. We cooked that up last night, and it looks pretty damn awesome, if I do say so myself. So thank you to Mr. D. Wayne. And as I say, in about 4 weeks' time, Miss Ashley and myself are going to be at the ReasonCon, and with a whole whackload of other podcast peoples and some really awesome speakers like Davis Fitzgerald and Davis Smalley, Hannah Databoy, and Beth Presswood, and I think I'm missing somebody somewhere. Who?
Tracy Harris.
Tracy Harris, yes, I knew I was missing somebody somewhere. And
I have to say, we just recently heard that the tickets are going fast now.
Good.
I guess because we're getting closer. So if you haven't gotten your ticket yet, go over to reasonnc.com and get your ticket.
Yes, absolutely. And Miss Ashley, did you want to plug your FFRF campaign?
Yes, we are right now. We have some shirts over at Cafe Press. Excuse me for just a minute. Bobby, what is it? Cafe Press at No Religion Required? Yeah. It's it's cafepress.com/no religion required. Go on over there, check the shirts out. Um, all the proceeds of that we receive from the shirt sales go to anybody who wants a membership to the FFRF. Also, if you're going to be in attendance at ReasonCon, we also would like to get a group photo of everybody in the NRR shirts.
Ooh, that'd be cool.
Yes.
Definitely cool. All right, folks. So once again, remember, no show on April 1st. We will be back on Monday on April 6th. And we look forward to seeing everybody then. I will keep you reminded. I'll send out reminders next week. So hopefully nobody will be sitting waiting for us to come on when we aren't. So for all of us, have yourselves a great evening. And as always, I'm going to end things out with our good friend David Foda and the Humanist Creed once I get it to load.
I know the truth and power of reason and of rational thinking, and I will use them to my advantage. I know the truth and power of educating myself and of expanding my intellectual boundaries, and I will educate myself. I know the truth and power of vanquishing ignorance, and I will do so whenever the opportunity presents itself. I know the truth and power of morality without supervision, and of true and accurate righteousness. I know the truth and power of obliterating tyranny, be it intellectual, emotional, or philosophical, and will work toward that goal whenever and however possible. I know the truth and power of human ingenuity. I know the truth and power of human compassion, and I will be mindful of the welfare of others. I know the truth and power of equality and fairness for all living things. I know the truth and power of the importance of our families, our friends, and our fellow men and women. I know the truth and power of human stewardship of our lands, our waters, and our skies, and I will try to act to preserve our environment. I know the truth and power of the sciences of mathematics, of physics, and of chemistry, and of the important role of these disciplines in understanding the workings of this cosmos. I know the truth and power of the rejection of all notions or beliefs that reside in the supernatural or the superstitious, and of those notions or beliefs that we are not supposed to be able to explain. And I know that these rejections are necessary for humankind's survival. I am a human being with a free mind, liberated from irrational influence and from unreasonable dogma.